Alrighty, welcome back to Millennial Thermom. Today I'm excited because we're going to be talking with Carla Avalos about two things that she would want new parents to know. Correct me if I'm wrong, but is it self-compassion and asking for help?
Yes. Yep.
Awesome. All right. So if you can just introduce yourself again, I know that you are coming back for another episode and you did one last season, so I appreciate you. But just for anybody who maybe this is the first time seeing you, if you can just introduce yourself and then let's just start chatting.
Yeah. So I'm Carla Avalos. I'm a bilingual licensed clinical social worker living in LA. So I'm obviously licensed in LA, but I'm also a telehealth provider for Utah and Florida. I also have specialized training with Postpartum Support International with perinatal mental health. So some of my clientele that I see in my practice is postpartum moms and
Mhm.
also like dads who experience parental stress. And I also work with first gens, Latinx, BIPOC, people of color. And then my other passion is working like with couples. So diving into the topic about like why I think we'll start with self-compassion.
Mhm.
What I like to tell like new parents where they're expecting or they're in the postpartum phase is that some of there are very few roles as adults that we'll have in life that won't ever change. And one of them is being a parent. So when
Mhm.
you become a parent, it's something that stays with you for gosh, for as long as like your kid will need you, right?
Mhm.
So I think it's like when you learn or first hear that, oh my gosh, we're gonna give life to this little one, or like we're in the postpartum phase, like we're here.
Mhm.
It's a lot to take in, and kids don't come
Mhm.
like with manuals, so it's
Mhm.
so important to practice self compassion because it is so hard. It is so
Mhm.
hard. Like, you're going to definitely have a lot of sleepless nights, some days where they're good, but knowing that it's okay to make mistakes and try
Mhm.
again is so important because this is a huge life transition. So that's why I
Mhm.
think self-compassion is a big one. And,
Yeah.
I'm sure that's something that you've heard too.
Oh,
Mm-hmm.
1000%. I am
Mm-hmm.
right about 14 and a half months postpartum now, right, with the
Mm-hmm.
toddler in the house. And man, did I dive into podcasts and audiobooks because I was like, I don't know what I'm doing and I don't know what I'm feeling. And, that's how Millennial Thermom was born too. But honestly, like, one of the main tools that once I was introduced to it, I was like, this one, I like this one is the self-compassion because
Mm-hmm.
I learned about it originally through a book. I think it's called Fierce Self-Compassion,
Mm-hmm.
Fierce or Radical, one of those. And just like knowing that that is like the antidote to the shame and the guilt that sometimes does come up as a parent, right? Like as a mom, for example, I'm not, I'm doing some screen time, right? And I could shame myself all day long if I go into the Googles and it's like screens are bad for your baby and blah, 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 blah. Or I could be like, you know what? Sometimes putting a little like 20, 30 minute of toddler español gives my toddler a chance to learn some Spanish and it gives me a little time to just rest and not be on, right? It gives me a little break. So, yes, girl, take your 30 minutes. That's like my self-compassionate voice. I'm like, you got this girl, like put it on. She's gonna be okay. And she's still the greatest little toddler I've ever seen in my life, right? Like I'm not messing
Mm-hmm.
her up. And hopefully when I see this 15 years later, I don't think I'm gonna be like, oh my gosh, I let her watch, you
Mm-hmm.
know, Peques con Isa Peque, whatever, right? Like I'm not gonna be shaming myself. So I 100% agree when you said that, I was like, yes, like the world and the pressure and the social media is already gonna be so hard on us. Why are we gonna add to it? Right? Like so I
Mm-hmm.
really
Yeah.
appreciate you.
Yeah, for sure. And like that piece that you said about being on all the time, that's pretty much like majority of the undertaking of like being a parent. And it's so hard, right? Because, you know, you come home, like if
Mhm.
you're out of the out of the office has type of job, like you have to be on. You can't decompress when you come home from work. Like you
Mhm.
you still have to be a mom, you have to be
Mhm.
a wife or a partner. So it's definitely an adjustment. So that's why I really teach my couples or also individual clients really lean on self compassion. And the other piece is being okay to ask for help because it is so hard to be strong all the time or
Mhm,
to feel like you have to do it all.
mhm,
I think one of the challenges that my individual clients share or like even my couple share is that they feel like, well, I don't want to be like a burden. I don't want to
mm,
bother so and so. But
mm,
at the same time, I think if if your support system is offering the help or they're wanting to be there for you, like allow it. Just because it's a lot, it gives
mhm,
you that peace of mind. Like, okay, I know that mom is gonna take care of my little one for at least like 10 minutes, so I could at least take some deep breaths or maybe take like
mhm,
a quick little nap. And
mhm,
asking for help, it can actually be more beneficial for your emotional well-being that you think. Because again, it goes back to the piece about being on all the time.
mhm.
It can sometimes like lead like to burnout and we don't
Yeah.
want that, so learning to ask for help and being vulnerable is like so important.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
1000%. I think right
Mm-hmm.
now, I mean, we're talking, it's the last day of January, and I'll probably post this early February, right?
Mm-hmm.
But January has been quite a month. I mean, the past few months have been quite a month. So
Mm-hmm.
quite a year actually. And I think that the potential for burnout is so high, especially for those communities of color that are really being
Mm-hmm.
impacted right now, because like I just did a video on stress, and burnout is like when in the way I see it, right? It's like when the amount of stress that we have is more than our capacity, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like you're trying to hold everything by yourself. And I think for me, burnout is when like it finally collapses, right? It's like it all falls down. I don't want to
Mm-hmm.
pick it up. I don't care anymore. We feel disconnected. And it's like I think about that a lot because our nervous system can only handle so much, or our
Yes.
mind, body, spirit. There's only so much before we're like, we can't fight anymore. So finding those pockets of like, how do I refill? Where do I get help with this or that? Who can I delegate this to? Like, we cannot be well without a community. And I think that's why
Yes.
sometimes with like individual therapy, I am definitely one to be like, hey, this is systemic, by the way. Did you know? Like you
Mm-hmm.
weren't meant to do this by yourself, because that's what happens, right? Going back to the shame and the self-compassion, we start taking it all on. It's like, it's my job to make sure that my daughter is good. And it's like, I can be part of her village, but she's gonna
Mm-hmm.
need her dad, her grandma, her, this
Mm-hmm.
and that, her community. She's gonna need her people. And I need to model it that, like, hey, you're gonna spend some time with grandma twice a week because mama's gonna go to the gym. I may or may not work out. I might just sit on the massage chair.
And that's okay.
And that's okay. That's what I needed, right? I literally go to the gym and I'm like, what do I need today? Do I need to carry some weights because I'm feeling like I need that? Do I need to run because I need that? Do I need to just sit in a massage chair by myself and try to rest? Right? So, and we can't do that without support, right? It's like cannot be a one person village. So that's key. That's key. And man, that first gen burden, I don't know if it's like a first gen burden or like oldest daughter burden or
It could
how
be
many
both. It could be
intersecting,
both. Yeah, it's that's all
right?
intersected. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, all
Uh-huh.
the intersecting burdens of like, oh, I'm gonna be a burden if I ask for help. Like, what? Like when we
I
step
hear that a
back?
lot. I hear that a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. And what
Mm-hmm.
do you kind of like? I know you've already shared some, but if I was telling you like, I can't ask for help, I feel bad, I feel like a burden. Can you just repeat some of the stuff that you would encourage our people with?
Yeah, so I would say, again, going back to what I said a little bit earlier, leaning on, your support system or asking for help is actually a sign of strength because, you know, we we really can't like do it. And when you think about like our ancestors, like there was so much beauty in community healing, right? Like, I
Mhm.
mean, I'm pretty sure they might have not the experience burnout in the level that we did, but I think also when you think about like leaning on about how it's so important like to not overpower like our nervous system by just
Mhm.
taking on like so much because I like realistically there's only so much that one person that can
Mhm.
take on before it can lead like to burnout. So I think
Mhm.
and just because like you're asking help doesn't mean that you're weak. It doesn't mean that you can't do it. in any way, it's more like you're actually also connecting or bonding more like with your
Mhm.
community or with your
Mhm.
support system. Like, hey, I want you to be part of this
Mhm.
super vulnerable part of my life, like please help me or please allow me to take like a deep breath, because sometimes like
Mhm.
we don't recognize how important that's to do that, to take a deep breath. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah, that's real. And I know that asking for help, especially if you haven't been used to it, can feel really hard. And I think that's where, like you said, the self-compassion comes in. So even if you need to
Mm-hmm.
give yourself a pep talk, like literally, this is one example of a way that I might talk to myself because this actually happened where it's like, all right, I know that I need a couple of hours a week to go out of the house, go to the gym, por lo menos, right? At least 2 hours. If I can get to the gym 2 times a week these days, I am like, all right, that's a baby step, right? And I was
Mm-hmm.
like, well, my husband works outside of the home most of the time. We can only
Mm-hmm.
afford this many hours of
Mm-hmm.
babysitting. But I know that my mom,
Mm-hmm.
she loves her grandbabies, and maybe she just doesn't know how she can step up because to be honest with you, my grandma was not very like nurturing and loving and, like acts of service kind of person. So I'm like, maybe she doesn't know.
Mm-hmm.
So just ask her, see, hey, ma, hay dos días que podrías venir, maybe like an hour, so I can go to the gym. And she's very much now in her own healing journey where she's like, mija, we need to take care of ourselves because your grandma died of a heart condition, your great grandma had heart condition, and this is how we like it's our demise, right? Doing too much is how we end up sick and not well. And now, like in my calendar, it's like, mama and Dio time, right? It's like I just put it on there. It's not, I don't call it babysitting. It's their time. There's their time to bond, and it's my
Mm-hmm.
time to get out of the house, right? Um, that was really hard, but now I'm so grateful that I did that scary step because she loves to come, right? She can't come all the time, but when she does, it's like our relationship gets better too. There's a lot of reparenting. I'm just like, oh, she's so sweet to her. And like, oh, she makes food and she says she brings food for her niñas, right? Like, I'm one of them. So it can be so beautiful once we allow ourselves to do the scary stuff of asking for help and being kind to ourselves. Like, right? That's a big step sometimes. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and also reminding yourself, like as a new mom or as a parent, that you are deserving too
Hmm.
of like Carla time. You are deserving of your own like time to like nourish your soul, nourish your body, so that you can continue being the best parent
Hmm.
that you can be.
Hmm.
And also highlighting the fact that just because you think you can do it all doesn't mean
Hmm.
that you should.
Hmm.
Doesn't mean that you should.
Do my church snap, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like I remember saying that to somebody. I say it to myself, like just because you can doesn't mean you should. One more time, just because you can doesn't mean you
Doesn't mean you
should.
should. Yes.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
like rest is resistance.
Mm-hmm.
Being well right now in these times, like us
Mm-hmm.
being like, no, I'm about to thrive. Watch me, is resistance, right?
Yeah.
Like I know, because like you said, we can pour out more from like love and deep empathy when we are at our capacity, when we're resourced, when we take care of ourselves. I can love my daughter better. I can fight for justice better. I can
Yes.
advocate for human dignity better from a place of love because if I don't, I can still do that, but I'm probably going to do it out of fear and hate and anger. And
Mm-hmm.
that's going to mess up my heart. It's going to mess up my digestion, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you're there, I feel you be kind to yourself, but just know that like baby steps, which it could be self-compassion, just practice being kind to yourself or
Mm-hmm.
asking for help, whatever that looks like, even if it's accepting help. Like if your partner or someone you love says, "Hey, do you want this?" Instead of being like, no, it's okay. I literally used to say, if you want. Like when people would say, oh, do you want to borrow this? If you want. Now I'm like, oh my gosh, pobrecita. Like I didn't know how to receive help. And for me, a radical act was saying, yes, please. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Not, oh, I owe you or I'll get you. No, it's like, yes, thank you. I appreciate that. I needed that. Right. So thank you. Thank you so much for highlighting like those two tools that for the most part are kind of free, right?
Like,
So
yeah.
sometimes the support might cost money if we pay for a sitter, right? But being kind to yourself is free
Yeah.
and letting your community know how they can show up for you can be free-ish, right? Just
Yes.
take some time and energy, but I appreciate you.
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much
Yeah.
again for having me.
Yes, thank you. And hope to have you again soon. But I hope that you all took something away from this. Make sure to follow and subscribe. And Carla, can you share your contact really quickly, just in case anyone wants to get in touch?
Yes, so I am on Instagram under Nuevos Caminos Therapy, so feel free to follow me. I like to post content related like to couples and first gens, and I also have a lot of resources in my bio as well. So yeah, so feel free to
Awesome.
check it out and give me a follow. Mhm.
Awesome. Yeah, I'll definitely put your info in the description. So go follow and go be kind to yourself and ask for some help. All right, bye.
Bye.